The Gettysburg Wheatfield. One of the bloodiest battle sites in the United States is the Gettysburg Wheatfield. The 19-acre field of wheat changed hands between the North and South 6 times. Veterans compared it to a whirlpool. Swept up in the intense fighting, over 6,000 men were killed, wounded, or captured in the field and surrounding woods. It's now a hot spot for ghost hunters because control of the Gettysburg Wheatfield went back and forth so many times and led to so much carnage. There are many reports of cameras and other recording devices failing in this field while trying to photograph Gettysburg ghosts. On the afternoon of July 2, 1863, Confederate Brigadier General George Anderson led his Georgia Brigade through the woods to the south to a confrontation with Union Brigadier General Regis de Trobriand's regiments, who were stationed behind a stone wall on that end of the field. As the Battle of Gettysburg dragged on and ammunition ran out, Anderson maneuvered his soldiers directly in front of the Union troops to conserve ammunition. De Trobriand's 17th Maine Infantry, under the leadership of General David Birney, also used up their bullets and finally retreated, as Anderson's men jumped over the wall. Suddenly, General Birney ordered the 17th Maine to about face and do a bayonet charge. The counterattack pushed back Anderson's men as Union reinforcements arrived. A brigade of South Carolina soldiers under General Joseph B. Kershaw crossed the Rose Farm and attacked Union troops on a small rocky knoll that borders the west side of the field. The Union Irish Brigade arrived to push the Confederates off the knoll. Kershaw renewed his attack with reinforcements from another Georgia brigade under Brigadier General Paul Semmes. A Union counterattack by a brigade under Colonel John Brooke joined the fight, and Semmes was mortally wounded. With bayonets, the Confederates were forced back to the Rose Farm orchard south of the house. Union forces began to withdraw from the Gettysburg Wheatfield under continued rebel assaults. The fighting was hand-to-hand for a while and very intense. The South Carolina Monument stands on Warfield Ridge, where General Kershaw's soldiers waited before the attack on the Rose Farm. One of the most interesting monuments on the Gettysburg battlefield is the Irish Brigade Cross in the woods by the Wheatfield. The cross has a very intricate appearance, and looks like it belongs in a Catholic church. An Irish wolfhound dog lies at the foot of the cross as a symbol of Irish loyalty. This monument by sculptor Rudolph O'Donovan was dedicated in 1888. The area known as the Wheatfield had 3 geographic features, all owned by the John Rose family: the 20-acre, 8 hectares, field itself, Rose Woods bordering it on the west, and a modest elevation known as Stony Hill, also to the west. Immediately to the southeast was Houck's Ridge, and to the south Devil's Denver. The fighting here, consisting of numerous confusing attacks and counterattacks over 2 hours by 11 brigades, earned the field the nickname Bloody Wheatfield. The first engagement in the Wheatfield was actually that of Anderson's brigade, Hood's division, attacking the 17th Maine of Trobriand's brigade, a spillover from Hood's attack on Houck's Ridge. Although under pressure and with its neighboring regiments on Stony Hill withdrawing, the 17th Maine held its position behind a low stone wall with the assistance of Winslow's battery, and Anderson fell back. Trobriand wrote, "I had never seen any men fight with equal obstinacy." By 5:30 p.m., when the first of Kershaw's regiments neared the Rose Farmhouse, Stony Hill had been reinforced by 2 brigades of the 1st Division, V Corps, under Brig General James Barnes, those of Calls, William S. Tilton and Jacob B. Schweitzer. Kershaw's men placed great pressure on the 17th Maine, but it continued to hold. For some reason, however, Barnes withdrew his understrength division about 300 yards, 270 meters, to the north, without consultation with Birney's men, to a new position near the Wheatfield Road. Trobriand and the 17th Maine had to follow suit, and the Confederates seized Stony Hill and streamed into the Wheatfield. Barnes's controversial decision was widely criticized after the battle, and it effectively ended his military career. Earlier that afternoon, as Meade realized the folly of Sickles's movement, he ordered Hancock to send a division from the 2 Corps to reinforce the 3 Corps. Hancock sent the 1st Division under Brig General John C. Caldwell from its reserve position behind Cemetery Ridge. It arrived at about 6 p.m. and 3 brigades, under Calls Samuel K. Zook, Patrick Kelly, the Irish Brigade, and Edward E. Cross moved forward. The 4th Brigade, under Colonel John R. Brooke, was in reserve. Zook and Kelly drove the Confederates from Stony Hill, and Cross cleared the Wheatfield, pushing Kershaw's men back to the edge of Rose Woods. Both Zook and Cross were mortally wounded in leading their brigades through these assaults, as was Confederate Semmes. When Cross's men had exhausted their ammunition, Caldwell ordered Brooke to relieve them. By this time, however, the Union position in the Peach Orchard had collapsed, see next section, and Wofford's assault continued down the Wheatfield Road, taking Stony Hill and flanking the Union forces in the Wheatfield. Brooke's brigade in Rose Woods had to retreat in some disorder. Schweitzer's brigade was sent in to delay the Confederate assault, and they did this effectively in vicious hand-to-hand combat. The Wheatfield changed hands once again. Additional Union troops had arrived by this time. The 2nd Division of the V Corps, under Brig General Romain B. Ayres, was known as the Regular Division because 2 of its 3 brigades were composed entirely of U.S. Army, Regular Army, troops, not state volunteers. The Brigade of Volunteers, under Brig General Stephen H. Weed, was already engaged on Little Round Top, so only the regular Army brigades arrived at the Wheatfield. In their advance across the Valley of Death, they had come under heavy fire from Confederate sharpshooters in Devil's Denver. As the regulars advanced, the Confederates swarmed over Stony Hill and through Rose Woods, flanking the newly arrived brigades. The regulars retreated back to the relative safety of Little Round Top in good order, despite taking heavy casualties and pursuing Confederates. The 2 regular brigades suffered 829 casualties out of 2,613 engaged. This final Confederate assault through the Wheatfield continued past Houck's Ridge into the Valley of Death at about 7:30 p.m. The brigades of Anderson, Semmes, and Kershaw were exhausted from hours of combat in the summer heat and advanced east with units jumbled up together. Wofford's brigade followed to the left along the Wheatfield Road. As they reached the northern shoulder of Little Round Top, they were met with a counterattack from the 3rd Division, the Pennsylvania Reserves, of the V Corps, under Brig General Samuel W. Crawford. The brigade of Colonel William McCandless, including a company from the Gettysburg area, spearheaded the attack and drove the exhausted Confederates back beyond the Wheatfield to Stony Hill. Realizing that his troops were too far advanced and exposed, Crawford pulled the brigade back to the east edge of the Wheatfield. The bloody Wheatfield remained quiet for the rest of the battle, but it took a heavy toll on the men who traded possession back and forth. The Confederates had fought 6 brigades against 13, somewhat smaller, Federal brigades, and of the 20,444 men engaged, about 30% were casualties. Some of the wounded managed to crawl to Plum Run, but could not cross it. The river ran red with their blood. As with the cornfield at Antietam, this small expanse of agricultural ground would be remembered by veterans as a name of unique significance in the history